Hey guys, it's Mel here from simplylive.com.au. I'm going to talk about a controversial subject today, I think, and I'm sure I'm going to get some people offside that I don't care. I get asked all the time about my safety. And, I'm out in the world traveling solo and, I could never do that. Women always say to me, I could never do that because, what if I got attacked? Couldn't get out and do that and blah, 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 blah. And it really bugs me, to be honest. It really, really bugs me because this is hardly ever said to men. I'm not saying it's never said to men, but it's hardly ever said to men. Even in our day-to-day lives in the world, we're told as women that we shouldn't go outside. We shouldn't be jogging in the morning and night. We shouldn't be going out at night. We shouldn't be going to restaurants. We shouldn't be traveling. We shouldn't be doing all of those things. The reality is this. It's actually safer, statistically, for women to do that than for men. And if you don't believe me, hear me out. I will put the stats on the page here for you. And I've got to say, I'm not going to sit and quibble over a few little stats. I don't even care if they're not quite right. But this is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics for 2006, the figures on violence. And I've got them here. I'm going to refer to them. I'll put the link up. And just to give you the concept of what I'm saying. Okay, so it says that for adults, for people over the age since 15, they surveyed people over the age of 18 about violence, and that's sexual or physical violence that they experienced from the time of 15 onwards. And they said that 42% of men had experienced physical or sexual violence in Australia. 37% of women. So that's close enough to the same. But men are not told that they shouldn't go out at night and shouldn't travel and shouldn't do all of these things. And yet it's just about on a par. That's the total violence, physical and sexual abuse violence levels. But if we look at the source of that violence, it says in the most recent incident of physical assault by a male, this is the most recent incident, men were more likely to be physically assaulted by a male stranger. 66% were assaulted by a stranger, okay? Whereas women, 92% of them were actually assaulted by someone that they knew. Only 8% assaulted by a stranger. Are we getting that? Everybody's worried about what women are doing outside of their home or by random strangers popping out of the bushes and attacking them or attacks while they're traveling. Only 8% of women who experienced violence experienced it from a stranger, whereas 66% of men did. So it's really, really important that women are not restricted in everything that they do because of I'm just double checking my statistics here to make sure I didn't make a boo-boo on that one. So it says more than 1 in 4, 27% of men experience violence by a stranger in their lifetime and only 9% of women. So one of those statistics is about the most recent incident and one is over their lifetime. So still three times more likely for a male to be attacked randomly by a stranger than for a woman to be. And yet men are not told that they need to stay indoors, not jog, not go out at night, not go to restaurants and not travel. So that being said, I encourage you to travel. I am not stupid enough to say that something could never happen. Obviously it could. If you're moving around places and you're in a poor country in particular, you're more likely to be robbed, people target travellers, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm going to give you some tips of what I do to protect my safety and my possessions as I travel. But I will stress again, this is aimed at men and women, not just women, because the risk to the men is even higher. Sorry about that. And I don't, all this rhetoric around it really annoys me that women will not accept this. So let's talk about this and get this out there. So in terms of safety, usually what men or people get targeted for, men and women, is because they have possessions that people want to steal or because they want to attack them physically, women more for rape and men because I don't know, it's a testosterone punch thing. I don't know why men get attacked as much. Not an area that I've looked into as much, but probably nightclubs and pubs and fights and arguments and all of that sort of stuff. So as you're traveling, the men are less likely to do that. I would suggest that they eat some humble pie and bring out their diplomacy skills to make sure that they don't become a target or seen as a big noting person. Similarly for women, you know, not to actually target yourself in any way. Wealth is a big thing. So if you're going to carry Louis Vuitton luggage, I think you're more likely to be targeted, realistically, than me with my $50 suitcase and, you know, wearing tracksuit pants or just general travel. But if you're wearing the flashiest, you know, gear and clothing and suitcases, you're more likely to be seen as wealthy and more likely to be targeted. So keep yourself a little bit more low key if you want to do that. Using Google Maps on your phone is a good thing. If you're using a paper map, you really look like a tourist. If you're walking along checking your phone, the whole world walks along checking your phone. Obviously, if someone gets close, they can see you checking Google Maps, but it just makes it less obvious from a distance. I do different things when I'm traveling and going long distance versus just out for the day. If I'm just out for the day, I just take my handbag, it's padlocked. And I have a little padlock on one of the components on my handbag, and it has all my valuables in for that day. Men, if you're probably not wearing a handbag per se. If you do, that's fine. But they will often have a across the body bag of some description. And I would make sure that you do. I wouldn't be carrying my wallet in my pocket if it's got anything valuable in it, because I'll just pickpocket it out. I would actually get a body bag and use it. You may not call it a handbag, it's still the same thing, and lock it up. Especially if you're in crowds, especially if you're going to tourist areas, you want to make sure those things are secure. So my handbag has several compartments, and a body bag will normally have several compartments. The really valuable stuff is in the lock it up bit, locked up. Anything that I want to access quickly, which includes my purse, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, my, you know, brush, tissues, you know, stuff that I want to grab quickly is on an outside pocket, so I don't have to worry about the padlock issue. When I'm traveling and going long distance, that is always locked up. When you have your hands full of luggage, when you're moving from A to B, you are more likely to be a target because they know that they can attack and run and you can't chase after them. It's harder to fight back. So you want to make sure everything's secure. I have my cabin bag, which is often on my back because I'm carrying my suitcase. It is also padlocked and it does not leave my sight. And then I have my suitcase, which is also padlocked. Having said that, I think that probably the padlock is a waste of time. If someone steals your suitcase and they really want to get your suitcase, they're just going to smash the lock. But anyway, I do it just to look the part. When I go to the toilets, when I go anywhere, my cabin bag and my handbag goes in with me. I might leave my suitcase just outside the door in the main area of the toilets because it won't fit in the toilet, but my cabin bag and handbag will always go with me, regardless of how squishy it is. In your handbag or your across the body bag, as I mentioned to you, I'm not really worried about my wallet. My wallet or my purse has in it a card that I have several other cards from the same bank, so that if someone stole that card, I can still access that bank account using a different card that I have in another bag or somewhere else. I have the money I need for that day only in it. So it might be €5 if I just think I'm going to buy a coffee that day. It might be €10 if I'm going to buy some lunch. I rarely put more than that. Now, the great thing with that is if you're walking around with a cheap wallet, you know, once again, if it's a Louis Vuitton wallet or a Dolce & Gabbana wallet, people are going to target it. It's a cheap wallet and you've got it there and someone wants to take it, they're going to see it and they're going to take that, not knowing that your more important stuff's actually in your bag. And so they leave that alone because they want your wallet. Always an across the body bag, always slash proof. The other thing is that I have 3 phones. I have one phone, because I'm a long-term traveller, that is not a smartphone, that is just has my Australian SIM in it. And if something happened, you know, if I'm out for the day, it stays in the house or the place, the hotel or whatever. So the other two phones are smartphones and they're the same, but one's in really bad condition and one's in good condition. The good condition one has my SIM in it, my international SIM for here, and it stays locked in my bag. I have my maps downloaded onto my phone and my crappier phone, and that phone I use as a camera for the day, so I don't care if it runs out of battery, and it's got my maps downloaded onto it. I also have the maps downloaded onto my phone, which is in my handbag with my SIM in it, but it only gets pulled out if the batteries really run out, and I carry a battery pack as well. So once again, if they steal that phone, which has big cracks through it, it looks old, whatever, if they steal it and they steal my wallet, I've got a spare phone and I've got more money somewhere else and spare cards somewhere else. It's not the end of the world. And if I see people around that look a little bit dodgy, you know, I've actually quite often got those things in my hand because I go, take it, like take it. I don't care, just rip it out of my hand and take it. I'd rather that than them hit me over the head and take it. So that's how I look after my possessions. And once again, while I'm not discounting the risk of physical violence on me, chances are the risk of physical violence on me is to take my possessions. So let them have it. Give them a little bit, cancel the card, let them have it. Don't worry about the violence don't let them inflict violence on you to get the possessions. That doesn't mean that you hand it to them. You try and keep it safe, but let's not make it so hard that they want to bop you over the head. I find the least safe form of transport, in my opinion, is the train. On a bus, even if there's only a few people on board or lots of people on board and they all happen to be men and I'm worried about my own physical safety, there's the bus driver on there that I can call out to. There's other passengers that I can call out to. On a plane, I don't like the fact that I have to get out all of my possessions and put it onto a security belt and everybody gets to see where I put everything back. I think that's very unsafe. But you are in a secure area when you do it under video, and I'd like to think that it's a little bit safer. Ooh, I really don't like it. Whereas trains, unless you get a seat right up the front near the guy who is driving or the guard, you know, especially if the cabin is somewhat empty, you're pretty vulnerable on a train, in my opinion. They might see it and be able to catch someone later, but that doesn't help you in the moment. Also, if I'm going to get a seat on a train, I'm going to try and sit near the doors, because often in a long distance train, your luggage is near the doors. And so if you're down the back of the cabin and your luggage is up the front of the cabin, at a stop before yours, they can just get off the train and take your luggage with it. I still always carry my cabin bag and I stick it under my feet or somewhere really close to me, and my handbag and my main suitcase will go down there. Similarly, on a bus, it's not always the case, but quite often, if you're on a long haul bus, like 10 hours or whatever, the luggage compartment for the furthest distance is on the road side of the bus, usually where the driver is in Europe, obviously the opposite side in Australia. So if your luggage is under there, I try and book a seat on the driver's side of the bus up the back so I can see that. So if there's stops earlier and someone goes into that side of the bus, I'm watching to make sure they don't take my suitcase out. If you're only going a few stops, it's normally on the passenger side near the footpath. And so once again, I'll try and get a seat over that side so I can keep an eye and make sure that someone's not actually taking my suitcase out of the luggage compartment as you go, and you can do that as you go. So in terms of general safety and physical safety, apart from your possessions and being knocked over the head for your possessions, being aware, like just being aware of your surroundings. This is the same as whether you're living at home in your local area. You know, don't get caught up so much that you're not physically aware, apart from the fact that you'll enjoy things more. You'll see the people from the local culture and what's going on around you and aware of events and things happening, and little intricacies of the local area by being really aware and in the moment. You're also aware of the people around you. And that includes putting in headphones if you're out walking around. Even if you're doing a guided tour, a walking tour, I always have one ear out. Make sure that you do that. It's not only about physical safety of someone hitting you on the head, but also I've seen so many people walk out in traffic because they didn't hear a car coming. I've also had, and this is the same when I've been jogging over many, many years, people always say to me, oh yes, but we're fine, we don't have it up so loud that we can't hear. And I can tell you, I have tapped on the shoulders of so many people walking or jogging through a park or down a street as I've gone past, and they've got such a fright to know that I came up behind them. And honestly, if I'm giving you a fright walking past you, you are too caught up in your world. So keep one ear out of your earphones all the time to be aware. If you're at the beach, I would suggest for anybody, especially for women, because if it's an isolated beach, there is more chance of some sort of an attack on a woman. But for men too, just their physical possessions once again. I don't sit up near the dunes if it's an isolated beach. If there's lots of people around, I might sit near the dunes, but I will sit in the middle of the beach because people can lurk and hide in the sand dunes. So just be aware of that. Sit in the middle of the beach. I've also found that if I've been on a fairly isolated beach and I'm concerned about who could be lurking around, I stay near other people. In fact, I've actually gone up to men. You can normally tell for women who your intuition starts to work well, but also because if you're walking down the beach and guys completely ignore you as you're walking past, they're not leery and creepy. They just kind of ignored you. I will walk up to them if I can speak the language even a little bit and say, I feel a little unsafe here. It's very quiet. Do you mind if I sit near you? I wouldn't necessarily sit with them and talk to them because you never really know, but sitting near them. And I've found actually I've made some great friends doing that. And the guys have been really, really great saying, yeah, please do. And, it's awesome to do that. And, for men going down to the beach, you still wouldn't want to go near the sand dunes where you can just leave your bag there and then go down for a swim and find all your possessions missing. So keeping in a more exposed area of the beach is wise, especially in winter time when it's a bit cooler and the beaches are kind of deserted. Try not to look rich. Especially if you're in a poorer country, but anywhere, people are out looking for tourists who are distracted and a bit stressed because they're looking around all the time. So once again, just play cool. If you want to look a fashion statement going out at night, that's one thing. But if you're walking around touristing, I just highly recommend that you try and look as fitting in as normally as possible and as comfortably as possible. And don't wear, cargos and think, oh, well, I've got my cargo pants on and I've got my hiking boots and so I look kind of relaxed. If your hiking boots cost $500 and you're still wearing all your jewelry and bling with it, that goes for men and women, expensive watches and jewelry, gives you away straight away as being wealthy. Driving a flash car around in a rental, go for you want to have a comfortable car if you want to drive, but you don't have to have the flashiest car in town, or you make yourself a target and you're going to do that. So I think they're kind of the main points. I am not stupid enough to think that there is not dangers in the world. But what I really want to convey is that the world is, on average, a really, really safe space. I've actually even seen statistics, and I don't have it, and I wish I could find it now, where I read that the rate of violence in the world and your risk of death in the world is actually now the lowest it's ever been in history. But we're listening to these horrible news reports. Turn off your TV, turn off your radio if they're going to talk to you about garbage like that all the time, about how dangerous it is to live these days. It's not. It's one of the safest times that we've ever had. And the more you interact with people, the more you will find how wonderful they are. What happens when we walk down the street, even in our own town, is that we ignore 100 people that go past us. And then we see someone that looks a little bit shady, and we're aware and we go, oh, there's that person over there. Oh, there's all these dodgy people in the world. Forgetting that we saw 100 that we completely ignored. So it's 1 in 100. It's probably even less. So start to take notice of all the great people. Look up, smile, see them smile back, and you'll get some benefit out of that. The more that you slow down, I understand if you're on a holiday, you're rushed and you're stressed and this is your only time. But one of the great things for me is that in slowing down my life and just being in the moment more and taking more time out and taking attention to now, is that I've developed a much stronger sense of my own intuition. That doesn't mean I don't sometimes get it wrong, but I can sense who to trust more. I'm very aware of what's around me, and my experience is telling me now what to look for that looks a little bit odd or doesn't look odd. So start to get in tune with that. The more you do this, the more you develop your intuition. The world is a really good place. I have had a couple of instances, probably I could name on one hand, over 20 months of traveling on my own, night buses, depots, everything, where I've gone, okay, this is a little bit odd. And I can tell you that at every occasion that that happened, I had people around me who made me feel reassured and comfortable and checked on me. Plus all the other times where I didn't feel unsafe at all, but I was just walking down the street looking a little lost and people stopped to ask me if I was okay. It's just not true that the world is dreadful and it's unsafe. I simply don't believe it. I hope that you don't believe it. And the other really big thing about that is that I personally believe we are making the world less safe by choosing to continue to believe that. Because when you're staying at home, locked in your house, and for women, there's a much higher risk of you getting hurt that way, staying within your own friendship circle and within your own home. By choosing to not interact with other people and not interact with other humans, we lose our connection with those humans. We lose our ability to mix with other cultures, to be around different styles of people, to see the diversity and to discover how good they really are. So then we build up a fear, we build up a hatred, we lock ourselves in, everybody hates one another, and there's more chance of violence and there's more chance of war and there's more chance of all those nasty things happening to us. If we just go out and experience the world and see how good people are on average compared to what we really think, then we can appreciate one another more, we become more tolerant, we work together a lot better, and we actually make the world a safer place. So if you're worried about the safety of the world, take care, don't be stupid, apply your common sense and get out there and simply live and enjoy the things that you want to do and forget all this garbage that's put out there about the safety and how dreadful the place is. Get out there, guys. Really enjoy it, please. That's my rant. That's my soapbox for today. I know that some of you are just going to go, that's just not the case. Frankly, I don't care. You're welcome to comment. You're welcome to put in your points of view. That's perfectly fine. But hey, I'm living it, and I hope that you will too. I hope that you will see that there's some great stuff to be had by experiencing the world in such a better way. So like this video, even if you don't agree with me, if you thought it provided some value or got you thinking in some way, good or bad, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, see what your friends say, see whether they are ready to get fired up and completely disagree with me and telling me I'm being irresponsible for daring to tell you to get out and live your life and, not that the world is safe. There are obviously elements of unsafety in everything. It's nowhere near as bad as you think, guys. Get out there and live. Have a great day. Bye.